Okay, we are live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, a very special guest, returning guest. His name is Carl Hassell. Last name is spelled Hassell. Today, we're going to talk about the strange world of Frank Zappa, somebody I don't know as well as Carl does. Carl knows a lot. I'm trying to talk in the pre-show and get these slides together, but this will not be Carl saying this is our fourth show. We did two shows on the Grateful Dead. The title of that one was The Grateful Dead: Counterculture, New Age Deception. And then we did another one, The Strange Tale of Spies, Lies, and the Peyote Way Church of God. So we did those. Those would be three. And then this will be our fourth show. So I'm delighted to have him back. And we're going to, like I said, show some slides and hopefully get some links if I can do a good job on popping these links up. So, Carl, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's fun to be here.
Yeah. It's great to talk with you. People may not have heard our earlier show. You have had a very interesting life. A lot of connections, Dead, Peyote Way Church. Maybe you can talk about your background, your interest in Zappa, and then we can go from there.
Okay. Can I do the intro?
Please do.
Okay. Today I'm going to share a fresh look at Frank and Gail Zappa. As a former fan, I now see him as a tool of social engineering and predictive programming. He has a large catalog spanning rock and roll, jazz, doo-wop, avant-garde, orchestral, and opera. I've put together some compelling things for us to mull over, and I will post more information and links on my X page.
Great. So we will put a link to your X/Twitter account. So people, if we don't get everything up or go through all your slides, you sent me like 50 links. So there's a lot of information you have. But where would you like to start?
Okay, well, I was first exposed to Frank Zappa in roughly 8th grade. A buddy and I were going through his older brother's albums, and the first exposure to Frank was that record, the Sgt. Pepper Mirror album, that parody, and it completely ripped my mind apart. It blew my mind, and I was a lifelong fan. I saw the band only 4 times from 1973 to 1988. I met a few of the guys on the 88 tour, and there's a lot of information that's wrong that's being circulated online, and I notice nobody really shows any links for their assertions. And Dave McGowan did a good job, and I'm not crapping on his research, but because he was not a fan, he really had a basic thing, and there's a lot more to this.
Gotcha.
So I got a little piece here for us, and there's a lot more, but this one thing will be pretty cool, I think.
All right, cool. Where would you like to go from here?
Wherever you want.
Okay, well,
we go with each slide.
Okay, because this is I've seen him quoted. He's a very intelligent guy. He has a lot of blurbs online and a lot of snippets of his interviews saying prescient things and very applicable things to today. And this is one that I see all the time of related to him. The illusion of freedom will continue as it's profitable to continue the illusion. At the point where the illusion becomes too expensive to maintain, they will just take down the scenery. They'll pull back the curtains. They'll move the tables and chairs out of the way. And you'll see the brick wall at the back of the theater. Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, we could start with that Sgt. Pepper parody if you want. That'd be a good spot.
Is that a link or a slide?
Those are the slides.
Okay, Sgt. Pepper.
I believe it was in the first email there. Yeah, there we go. There we go. This was my first exposure to Frank, this album, We're Only in It for the Money. He started recording this 4 months after the Beatles came out with Sgt. Pepper. As you can see, it's a complete opposite. There's a dark, stormy thing here instead of a blue sky. But Frank had called Paul McCartney and wanted to collaborate. And Paul got nervous and was talking about lawyers and copyrights. And then he didn't like Frank using the word product. And as Frank explained, hey, man, I'm dealing with record company executives and they understand money. They don't know anything about rock and roll idiots. So I'm trying to sell a product and deal with them on a money level. So Paul backed out and Frank went ahead with this one. And he felt the Beatles were overrated and completely blown out of proportion and didn't deserve the worship they got. And Paul McCartney's on record saying their inspiration for Sgt. Pepper came from Frank's first album, Freak Out. and I have supplied the links for that. So, if you want to go through that, people can see that it's an exact opposite of Sergeant Pepper.
Okay, let me
Now,
see.
there's a lot of subliminal messages in this record and a lot of backward stuff. And at one point, Frank says, "I am proud to be a part of this great mass deception." So,
Wow. So he knew. He kind of knew what was going on, huh?
yeah. And these people that are on this album, Frank's dad is in here, Lon Chaney, David Crosby, Eric Burden from the Animals, Theda Bara, the old dancer, Lee Harvey Oswald, LBJ. And Jimi Hendrix really was there. He wasn't a cutout. He was in the next studio recording his Axis Bold as Love album.
Oh, wow.
And the little girl there is the daughter of Frank's manager. That's Lisa Cohen. And then here we have Gail Zappa, very pregnant with Moon Unit. And this guy right here, the black man, is Tom Wilson. He was an executive and an engineer at MGM. And as you can see, he's doing a hidden hand symbol.
Right.
And what's weird is the sweater is not his. That sweater belongs to the drummer, Jimmy Carl Black, the Indian of the group, as he's known. So I don't know why Tom Wilson is wearing that, but he is doing a hidden hand there.
Wow. So the Beatles were inspired by the earlier album of Zappa.
His very first one, Freak Out. Here's Frank's dad right here. If you could see my cursor, I don't know if it's visible.
No, it doesn't show up. Which one is he?
You see the guy with the army hat on, the fold hat, the fold cap?
Yes.
Right to his left is Frank's dad with the mustache there.
Army hat. Is it in the front? Is it the pink army hat? Is that the one?
Okay. You see the green skull?
The green skull. Yes.
Okay. The black and white picture of the man with the mustache right above the skull.
Oh, that's him. Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha.
That's Mr. Zappa. A lot of these people are Frank's schoolmates from college. We got Elvis Presley in there, David Crosby, Eric Burden, LBJ, Lee Harvey Oswald, Beethoven down here at the bottom. So,
wow. And where did he go to college? Where did Zappa go to college?
He went one semester at I want to say Pomona Valley, but it was somewhere out in the valley. I don't have that prepared right now.
He's from LA though, right? Isn't his dad in military intelligence?
Well, okay, yeah, we could talk about his dad. In the 1940s, Mr. Zappa worked for Florida in the defense industry in an unknown position. And then he was teaching metallurgy at the Monterey Postgraduate School. But in 1956 through 59, he worked at Edgewood Arsenal. And he was a meteorologist, and he figured trajectories for the various poisons they used. And he used to volunteer as a test subject for extra money. He would come home with patches on his hands, his arms, his back and chest, and he got $10 a patch testing the chemicals. Wow. So he was not the head of MK Ultra, as some people have asserted.
But still a strange guy, still involved in all that testing though, right?
Yeah, he spent 3 years there from 56 through 59. Now here we have a picture of Frank and his parents, and on the wall is a painting. That painting is the Alice Cooper's first album, Pretties for You. Frank produced Alice Cooper's first 3 albums.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So he was really ensconced in the music industry. So,
oh, yeah. He did a lot of producing, a lot of engineering, a lot of recording. And he played drums, guitar, and vibraphone from 61 through 66 in 20 different bands.
Wow. And died young, like only died at 52 or 53, right?
53.
So very productive.
I'm perfectly willing to share all that information too in detail. Who played, when they played, what the records were, et cetera, et cetera. I can supply links for about 99% of the stuff we're going to discuss here.
Okay. So that's his dad. And what else Rosie. Are on these slides? I mean, he's making this kind of one-eyed things. These are all like the famous,
I had 4 more one-eyed pictures, but I didn't want to be redundant. I think people will get the idea.
That he knew that culture. Did you see him as anything like, in the kind of darker aspects of the Hollywood music culture?
I did not until I started figuring this stuff out. I thought he was great and a rebel. I thought he was my hero besides the Grateful Dead.
Interesting. And a cross-dresser. He liked to wear women's clothing, or at least be photographed with it, right?
Yeah. He's doing the okay sign there. Now, if you want to go back one thing here, go back one slide. This is the Manson family. For a short time, they lived in the caves that were part of the log cabin property. Those caves were man-made and they stretched out through several properties. But for a very short time, some of the family lived in the caves.
Wow.
Nobody lived at the log cabin that was part of the Manson family.
And where was the log cabin? Was that in Laurel Canyon, or where's that?
Yeah, that was at the top of the hill there, Lookout Mountain, near the Lookout Mountain.
Right.
I don't want to confuse that.
The infamous Laurel Canyon.
And Frank was only at the log cabin 4 months in 1968, and they got out of there. The place was dilapidated and falling apart, but it got too crazy. Everybody in the world was coming to visit him, and he used to hold auditions there. And if you go back through interviews with Gail Zappa, she said they moved because anyone who was not on drugs could see where this creepy scene was headed. So they got the hell out of there and moved down the Woodrow Wilson Drive, where he spent the last 25 years of his life.
Interesting. So he wasn't part of it. He liked to cross-dress or whatever, woman's clothing. Like, that's not it. But he's an iconoclast, right? I mean, that's kind of his music was not, he wasn't writing conventional pop music, right?
No, he wrote everything. He, as I said earlier, rock, pop, doo-wop, avant-garde. He even composed one album on a Synclavier computer. He did an entire album on a computer. He did one opera called Thingfish.
Wow. He named his kids like strange names. There he is in the dress.
Yeah, there's Moon Unit, the oldest daughter right there in Gail's belly.
Right. Man, Dweezil was one of them. And
yeah, Dweezil still tours today. He does a thing called Zappa Plays Zappa. I don't follow it. I'd rather have him do his own music. I have nothing to, I don't listen to Dweezil at all, but he's continuing Dad's legacy.
I guess that makes sense. And this
now
is
here, I was told by somebody in the industry that I've known all my life that Gail donated $250,000 to Hillary's campaign.
Wow, that's a lot.
So there's a picture of the two of them.
Wow, that's creepy. Gail Sloatman was her name. Is that her?
Yeah. And I need to say that Frank wasn't violent at all, nor did he have a hair trigger. And his daughter said he never got angry at all, unless he was fighting with Gail. And she was a real nutbag. She had a hair trigger temper, and she was extremely abusive mentally and emotionally. And she used to work with Ouija boards and crystals and practice remote viewing and ESP. She's pretty bizarre. And I have different clips that I shared from Moon's new book, which was fascinating. And she said, and I shared the video, I shared the thing, Frank was her favorite person. Moon Unit said, Frank is my favorite person in the world, full stop, period, and my best friend and my only ally in the world. Now, that doesn't sound like an abusive person.
Wow, no. And that was the Earth to Moon memoir, right?
Yes,
That's it.
yeah.
See if I can share that.
She has a lot to say about Gail. Gail was a real flake, man.
It sold a lot of copies. She has great reviews for her books. That's cool.
Yeah, she's got a bunch of interviews, too, on YouTube that are really worth checking out. She's gone through a lot of changes. And what's cool is she validated how I felt, how I feel about the whole thing. I shared one of the attachments. She says, the farther I'm away, the more I realize my father was a bad force he treated women like shit. And, the farther away she is from it, the more she can see this, how he was a corrosive influence in society.
Oh, interesting. And so you share that view that he's a corrosive influence.
Oh, yeah. It's in all those attachments from those emails I sent you. And that's the inside. That's the inside cover of the Sgt. Pepper parody.
Right. Is that the Rosemary's Baby dress? I think it was a red dress.
No, that was red.
Yeah, it was red.
Rosemary's Baby hadn't come out yet. This was early 1968. Frank's music was recorded by 5 different orchestras. In 1963, the Pomona Valley Symphony did some of his avant-garde work. He had 2 albums done by the London Symphony Orchestra, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, the composer Pierre Boulez, and then later on at the end of his life, the Ensemble Moderne did his music also. He had a lot of orchestral stuff. So 5 different orchestras have performed Frank's music over the years. He wrote everything. I mean, he found the best people possible to play the music he was writing. His first instrument was.
I lost you there. You just froze up just for a sec.
Okay.
So he has first musical instrument, playing a bunch of stuff. It says that he did a Luden's cough drop commercial. It says that in your notes.
Yeah, I'm going to share that in my. Okay. I'm going to share that on my X. He also wrote a little ditty to coincide with the Batman TV show in 1966 called "Boy Wonder I Love You," and I will share that also on my X page.
Wow, so this is it right here. This is Luden's cough drop.
All those things are going to eat up too much time. I'd rather talk.
Okay, good.
I will share this, though. I will share the YouTube videos on my X page.
Good. Yeah, you have so many links, so many different links and things like that. So Gail was a mess. Moon Unit just seemed sensible. Like she made it through, huh?
She really went through a lot of changes and came out okay.
And he was eminently quotable. Like you have some of these other things that he said. If your children ever find out how lame you are, they'll murder you in your sleep. He must have had a super high IQ or something.
He probably had ADHD too, or Asperger's or something. He was a very selfish man that was consumed with what he was doing and nothing else mattered. And, the Valley Girl record, Moon Unit got no royalties for that.
Wow.
Yeah, there was nothing. It's like, come on down, record this stuff with me. She got nothing for that. And neither did Ahmet. Diva, the youngest daughter, they all contributed little ditties on some of his novelty records, and none of them got any royalties.
Wow, that was probably his most famous song, too, is Valley Girl, right?
Yeah, or Don't Eat the Yellow Snow and Catholic Girls and Jewish Princess, all those goofy tunes.
He did a lot of sexual type stuff.
Yes. Frank was singing about transgenderism and gender confusion in the 1980s. And he was also singing about sex robots and cyborgs. And I shared some of the tunes and the lyrics for those if people wanted to check that out. He was way ahead of his time with that stuff. Nobody else was talking about cyborgs, sex with robots, and gender confusion and transgenderism. He was doing that in the early and mid 80s. Wow. That was the last orchestral work he did. The Ensemble Moderne did a thing called the Yellow Shark.
Yeah, and I remember the Central Scrutinizer, this whole concept of technocracy or somebody always watching. That was the theme in one of his albums too.
Yeah, that's from the Joe's Garage 3-part album.
Wow. Did he die wealthy? Was he a wealthy person?
Crazy enough, he had no health insurance, and neither did Gail. And she died of a terrible cancer, and he died of prostate cancer. Not rectal cancer, like has been claimed. There's a big difference between rectal cancer and prostate cancer. Frank died from prostate cancer.
Right. So he kind of withered away from that, huh?
Yeah, he was eventually bedridden. He got sick, then wheelchair, and then bedridden.
Wow, that's too bad.
And consequently, the actress. Who's the girl on the Chevy Chase vacation movies?
Oh,
the blonde, the lady.
Oh, I can't remember her name.
She was at Frank's deathbed. She was there when he died, when he passed.
Oh, wow. So she was friends with him, huh?
Yeah, they knew each other.
Wow. 129 albums. That's what he did. He played with thousands of people, huh?
Oh, yeah. He jammed with Pink Floyd. You name it. He played with them. And, Stevie Vai went up to the house at 16 years old, said, "I like your music. I want to play with you." And Frank said, "All right, do an audition." And drummers, he would hold auditions for drummers. He'd rent a hall. And if you couldn't play polyrhythms or change tempo on the turn of a dime, he'd get rid of you. He was a very strict taskmaster and an asshole to work for musically. He demanded perfection. And he was anti-drug. He did not tolerate drugs, although he was a nicotine addict and a caffeine addict. But if he even thought somebody was getting high, he would fire him from the band in a second. And he would live on tour, he would get his own hotel room just in case the band was misbehaving. He didn't want anything to do with it. So he always had his own hotel room, and sometimes in a separate building, a different hotel.
Wow, interesting. He was a really different guy, man. And really an international celebrity.
Well, he's lionized in Europe. He's absolutely lionized in Europe. There's countries in Europe that are just fanatical over him.
Interesting. I wonder, why do you think that's the case when he didn't achieve first-rate celebrity here in the States?
I don't know. I think he didn't play ball, or they just didn't like what he was doing. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speculate or do conjecture, but he knew what was going on, man. And I shared, we'll see it in the links as you go through that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We can discuss.
Well, I'm kind of bouncing around. I'm not doing you any favors, but he influenced everybody, right?
Absolutely.
Just the most influential musician. May not have reached, peak celebrity status or music fame, but all their musicians really respected him. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. And it's common knowledge. If he made a deal with Zappa, a handshake was good enough. He had that kind of integrity business-wise. He was good friends with Jimi Hendrix. They visited often.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. Both early deaths, huh? What else is there to know about Zappa?
Well, I don't know. We just go somewhere.
Right. Well, let's go back through these slides. Let's see what you have. Some other slides where we're quoting. Who's that? That's Gail. His wife. Is that Slopeman?
Yeah, that's an earlier picture of Gail. Now, this is the Whiskey A Go-Go in 1966. And what we see on the table with this woman sitting at the table, you can see the Mothers of Invention's first album, Freak Out, sitting on the table there. This picture was taken at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Wow. And he had big ensemble bands too, right? That's what he kind of...
Yeah, he did big band. He did a lot of stuff like the Grand Wazoo and Hot Rats. He used a lot of horns and trombones, trumpets, all that. He was very versatile. He was, as I said earlier, he was well versed in a lot of different styles of music.
That's wild. That's amazing. What's this slide?
This is Bobby Beausoleil, the Cupid, talking about how he knew Frank. Now, he never lived at the log cabin, as has been asserted in the past. Beausoleil did audition for Frank. He did not make the cut, and he does supply vocals on the Freak Out album. Gotcha. That's the extent of his relationship with Frank.
Gotcha. But it is there. That is remarkable. Beausoleil is a known musician. Worked on this.
Now this is Moon Unit.
Okay, do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
Go ahead. No, you please.
Okay.
I'm terrible.
It says, the longer I am away, the more clearly I see that my father and the culture at large have been giving me the steady message that women have feelings that don't matter, that women are F toys wrapped in lies about female empowerment and responsibility for our own orgasm. Okay.
And here she talks about, well, you can read it. People can read it for themselves.
Right. Have a dad on loop in my head, and I don't have a relationship with him I can call satisfying. He is still my only ally in my family and in the world, and he's still the funniest, smartest person I know. He is my most favorite human ever, full stop. Wow.
That doesn't sound like an abuser.
No, why? Is that what the rumor is that he was abusive?
Well, people have asserted online that Frank had a trigger temper and abused his children. And you got it from the oldest kid right there. It's completely untrue. Now, here she's talking about Gail.
And she's into all that stuff, just like you said.
Yeah.
Astrology, I Ching, runes, acupuncture, mythology, Atlantis, the Aurora Borealis, Mensa, Freemasons, the Tower of London, the Dark Ages, the Vatican, healing with your hands, healing with your mind, exorcism, ley lines, and the evil eye. Chaucer.
Gail thought that she could recognize if a person was a good witch or a bad witch by looking at their eyes.
Wow.
And she used to have drills with the kids practicing ESP and remote viewing.
Wow. What's the GTO stand for?
That's Girls Together Outrageously. That was a group Frank put together. Christine Furka, who OD'd, and Pamela DeBar. Pamela DeBar was a live-in maid and babysitter, and she absolutely adored Frank. And she has a great book called I'm With the Band. And McGowan got some of his research from that book. Yeah, she absolutely adored him, but the GTO stood for Girls Together Outrageously. They had one album and it was a flop, and Frank recorded and produced it.
Wasn't DeBar a kind of famous party girl? Yeah, she was a groupie.
Yeah, she was a groupie starting at 15 years old. She was pleasing her rock and roll heroes, and then became a live-in maid and babysitter for the Zappas.
I didn't know that. Wow. So
she's now married to Michael DeBar, too, from, I forget the name of the group. I'm not part of that music scene, but Duran Duran, I believe. She married the guy from Duran Duran. She's still around.
Wow, that's wild. So that's how she got her last name, is she married one of those guys.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
She's 76. So DeBar's, I didn't know that. In addition to my unusual abilities tuning in, I'm getting otherworldly intel by osmosis, by eavesdropping on conversations from Gail directly. Wow, she's in the whole like conspiracy world subject matter. Area 51, UFOs, black holes, aliens versus the Greys. Wow.
How to spot them yet? That's some power, no?
Right. That's amazing. She's chain smoked. Oh, this is also from Moon Units. Yeah. Remote viewing. Wow.
Yeah, Gail was a nut, man. Frank had a hands-off approach. The kids could do anything they wanted. He just, everything was okay with him. He didn't get involved at all with raising the kids.
Did they have a conventional kind of upbringing, education, and things like that, or unconventional?
The kids?
Yeah.
No, he pulled them out of school when they were 16, out of the California school system.
Wow. He was really unique. There's really no question about it. So they've got all the masonry, illuminated, illustrated, Wealth of Nations books and stuff like that. Mysteries, occult, magic, goddess in the titles. Wow. So yeah, so they was a really alternative, other culture family, that guy. So what else do we need to cover? What else is in there?
Well, Frank's parents were Catholic, staunch Catholics, as well as Gail's parents, and they both became atheists and had nothing to do with organized religion. And Frank wrote a couple of songs. One is called Dumb All Over, and he postulates in the song, if we're made in God's image and we're dumb, maybe God is dumb and a little ugly on the side. And I supplied the lyrics to that tune also, along with Bobby Brown Goes Down, Cyborg, F Me, You Ugly Son of a Bitch. Those are some of the tunes where he twisted things around.
Wow. So
he was ahead of his time with that. I consider it predictive programming. Nobody else was talking about those things back then.
Wow. So he was also long-term friends with the Monkees too. Monkees were huge.
Yeah, he had a very strong relationship with Mike Nesmith in particular. And he appeared on the Monkees show. And he also did a cameo in the Monkees movie Head. And he still had a relationship with the Beatles all the way through his career, too. He used Ringo Starr in the movie 200 Motels. And I don't know if I supplied the link to it, but the quote is, Ringo Starr is dressed as Frank Zappa, playing the role of somebody called Larry the Dwarf. And he says, as you all know, the power of pop music has the power to twist young minds endlessly. I can supply the exact quote, but they knew the power of pop music. I'll supply the links if we don't have it in
And
any
this
other.
is the movie here,
Yeah.
featuring Zappa 71.
Yeah,
I think
and
it is.
Theodore Bickel, the classic actor, is in this movie also. He plays the devil.
Wow, there he
There
is.
he is.
Theodore Mayer Bickel. Interesting. But yeah, wow. I've never even heard of this movie.
It's pretty bizarre.
Like everything else,
Keith
Frank
Moon is
Zappa,
in
right?
it. Keith Moon is in it also. Ringo Starr, Theodore Bickel, some of the groupies.
That is interesting that this guy had this psychedelic kind of trippy music and culture without doing drugs, right? Like that's
Yes, and to expand on your point, the early mothers of inventions, jams and segues, are almost indistinguishable from Grateful Dead jams and segues in those early days. And both bands used two drummers for their whole career. And we know what Huxley said about beating drums and flashing lights. And years and years ago, I would be drunk and coked up, and I would call the Utility Muffin Research Kitchen, which was Frank's office, and talk to whoever answered the phone, and we would discuss the music. And really, there's some early shows where you can't tell if it's the Grateful Dead or Frank Zappa. It's some very, very similar jams and segues. And I eventually got a cease and desist letter. I used to do a lot of tape trading. I had several $1,000s of Frank Zappa concerts, and I had double that of Grateful Dead concerts. And I eventually chopped everything up with a fire axe, including my stereo, and threw it out on the lawn.
Wow.
I had enough of the whole scene.
Wow, that's amazing. The Zappa Family Trust sold the entire catalog to Universal Music in 2022. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
How much? Do you know how much they sold it for?
I thought it was 40 million in cash. 40 million or 44 million. And Dweezil and Ahmet got all the control and completely cut Moon Unit out. And to this day, they don't talk with her. None of the three kids talk to Moon Unit. She really got dicked pretty bad. And that was all Gail. That was Gail's doing. And when Gail was dying, she told Moon, "I hope you have as miserable a life as I had."
Wow, that's really nasty. Her own mother?
Oh yeah, she was a wicked witch, man.
Wow. So she was. Would you call her a witch? Do you think she's a literal witch?
I don't know.
Or a cultist or whatever, something like that. So they're not Christians though, right? I mean, if you went to the occult part of the bookstore, that was all the books that she had, or all those kind of things, the spooky stuff. Wow. Do you know when she died? When Gail died?
She died, 5 years after Frank?
Okay, so Frank died, I think, in 93 or something.
Yes, he did. And Moon Unit took care of Frank right up to the end. She even washed his body when he was dead and brushed his teeth and put him in some nice silk pajamas. And she took care of Gail, too. I mean, wiping her down, her naked body. And Gail was bedridden also with a terrible cancer. And Moon Unit took care of her right up to the end. And Gail was still a nasty bitch to her.
Wow, that's terrible.
I would recommend Moon's book.
You hate to hear that, It sounds like that was a cathartic experience for her to write that book. I guess if you're the parent.
Yes, it was. It was. She went through a lot of changes. It's an amazing book.
Yeah.
And she's lucky she survived and didn't become a drug addict or jump off a bridge, really.
Yeah, especially in LA. Unfortunately, it's not too common of these rich kids, famous kids' children don't always end up well, They don't end up she seems like very capable of analysis, self-analysis and stuff like that. So that's good.
Yeah,
people don't know. When I was growing up, that song Valley Girl was on we had only radio. We didn't even have Walkmans back then. It was on repeat on the radio all the time, just never could get away from it.
And unfortunately, that song, Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, Dynamo Hum, and Jewish Princess and Catholic Girls are the only thing most people know about Frank. And it's like, man, this guy, he had a whole lot of stuff. He was very versatile and was a brilliant musician. He really was. I mean, he wrote the drum charts. He wrote the guitar parts. He wrote all the horn parts. And on his 1988 tour, they were performing Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. and Frank rearranged it. The big guitar solo at the end.
Mm-hmm.
He had his horn section play that note for note.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Maybe the Europeans just have better taste in music than Americans. That's why he's more famous there. Maybe that's it.
And Frank, on that last tour in 1988, Frank also was doing several Beatles tunes. He turned into a medley with different lyrics. He took "I Am the Walrus," "Norwegian Wood," and another tune, and completely changed the lyrics to reflect what was happening in the 80s regarding the TV preachers that were getting busted left and right. It's really, really amazing. He was a hell of a guy.
One of the interesting things, like we started off with his critiques, he was a really, I think, an important cultural critic too, not just a musician, but he seemed to understand kind of the artifice and artificiality.
Well, you know what? He used to do interviews during the 80s there. And I don't know if it was David Letterman or one of the other ones, but he said the AIDS virus was created in one of those top secret labs underneath Virginia.
Wow.
And that is reflected in the opera Thingfish. He expounds on that a little bit. And if anybody was going to know that information, it'd be Frank with his family background.
Yeah, because they were neck deep in all that testing and stuff like that. Edgewood is what? Is that Maryland or?
Yeah, it's Maryland.
Yeah. So it's close to, I think it's close to DC, but just far enough outside, like maybe 60 minutes.
Yeah, and he always talked about that. It was no secret. He said, my dad worked at a place where they made stuff to kill people. My dad used to work with poison gas and it wasn't a secret. It's like pretty common knowledge. If you were a Zappa fan, he didn't keep any of that hidden.
Wow, that's wild. What else have we need to cover? I mean, in this we're at the 36-minute mark. I feel like we've gone through all the slides. That's his parents. That's his American hat. He's a witch here, whatever.
Well, basically, we need to know that, number one, he was only at the log cabin 4 months. Number two, no Manson family member lived in the cabin. Number three, it's no secret what his dad did, and there's absolutely no proof that he was working on any particular MK Ultra project.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that gets asserted out there that is completely untrue.
What do you think? Do you think that he was in this kind of music field as this kind of like a culted person? Like he's making all these weird gestures and stuff.
No, Frank was a musician first and foremost. That's what he was. That's what he did. This is the one and only time the Jerry Garcia band played with Frank Zappa.
Oh, wow.
They were not in the building together. They never saw each other. But it's really a curiosity that the Garcia band opened for Frank back there in 1984 for one show and one show only.
Wow. Remarkable. So you are going to put up some of these links on your social media, right? On X, is that right, Carl?
Yes, I'm going to post all the YouTube videos with some commentary and some other information also.
Cool. What's your handle on X?
It's Carl Hassell.
Just though at Carl Hassell, your full name together.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of elements of inquiry for this guy, like really interesting. But I'm glad that his daughter wrote a biography, because then you can really see somebody in the family. It's not just like you said, like your theme is like there's a lot of speculation out there that isn't true.
Yes, and that's what my purpose was. I kind of fired this stuff off to you out of aggravation, because I'm hearing things by people who are not fans, and they do a quick this and that, and then they do the therefore and a lot of conjecture. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to supply some links. I've been involved with Zappa's music since I was 13. I first saw him in 1974, then 1980, 1984, and 1988. And on the 88 tour, I met 2 of the band members and chatted for a while. And like I said, I used to call when I was loaded and talk music with whoever would answer the phone.
Right. I have tons of links here. Like, I don't know. You should post those links. I'll put a link.
I will do that. He started 4 record labels. He wrote 2 books.
Oh, wow.
He wrote the score to 2 movies.
I didn't know that either. The output's incredible, man. The guy was super creative. Like he just he is one of those people who could.
He was a perfectionist musically.
Just keep doing it. It's incredible. Not a hands-on dad though, huh?
No, and he did despise his fans. His fans. he felt his fans didn't get what he was doing, and he basically hated them because most of them would be drunk or on drugs. And it's like, you're missing the point here.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting that he had kind of contempt for his fans because
right from the beginning.
Wow, that's really wild. Because that's like a sure sign of like cursing yourself as a performer because you need your fans to like.
And that quote about if your children find out how lame you are, they'll murder you in your sleep. That was back in 1965 or 66. Wow. He said that to the audience.
Wow. Well, you've opened my eyes to Zappa. I really didn't know much. I had I still probably do have a very topical.
And this is a small peek. You know, there's a whole lot more. The kids grew up with sex dolls in the house. Frank and Gail would watch porn with the kids. And even from the time they were babies, they referred to mom and dad as Frank and Gail. They never called them mom or dad. There were no hugs. There was no I love you. There was none of that affection. They were very cold. And Gail was a nutbag.
That's too bad. That kind of makes me feel sad for the kids to have to kind of go through all that. Yeah, he is a different thinker. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
And I think he knew a lot that he didn't let on, and he squeaked it out in the music. You know, there's different clues, like I have just been killed by the government because I knew too much from the Uncle Meat album. And there's another thing, we can shoot you. And then on Freak Out, there's a musical piece called The Ritual Dance of the Child Killer. Wow, now, that is an instrumental in the middle of another movement. It's a movement in a whole piece of music. It's not a lyrical thing, but it's an interesting title to say the least. Ritual Dance of the Child Killer.
Child Killer. Wow, that's crazy. Well, I didn't really promote this. I was super busy today, but we had 300 listeners show up. So thanks to everybody for listening to Carl and I talk about Frank Zappa. I learned a lot, saw a lot of stuff. I didn't know some of this other stuff.
And I will post everything on X, including the YouTube videos.
Cool. I will put a link to your X, and people can check out our early ones. We did 2 shows on the Grateful Dead and the Church of the Peyote Way. So kind of a look into the counterculture that existed, still exists, really. The counterculture became the culture, I guess, is one way to put it. But
Frank was definitely a social engineer.
Do you think he was doing it intentionally or unintentionally?
Oh yeah, I think nowadays, the way I think now, I'm sure it was intentional. I would say. I mean, I'm not going to definitively say Frank knew this, but it sure looks that way with the compelling evidence
that he knew.
As a former fan, I was a rabid, foaming at the mouth Zappa head, man.
That's intense because that's a lot. That's a big catalog you got to keep track of because he's putting out music all the time. Like, wow.
And I do welcome any questions. Anybody wants to challenge, whatever. I will supply links for everything that you weren't able to do. And I know I sent you an awful lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I wanted you to be secure in the knowledge that I know what I'm talking about and I could back it up.
Well, you backed it up on the Church of the Peyote Way and the Grateful Dead, so you're keeping in alignment with our purpose.
I've got a lot of experience, man. I'm an old dude that survived, and I've been in a lot of different circles, so to speak.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. So I will put a link to Carl Hassell. Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything I missed before we wrap it up?
No. You know, you're okay with me posting the links in the YouTube?
100%. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. I could probably just cut and paste these show notes into my show notes if you wanted, but I'd rather have them go to your social media and find it, and then they can kind of interact.
It'll be a long thread. I will be putting it together.
Yeah. Go ahead and do that. Carl Hassell, again, this is our 4th show, and we talked about what is really the strange world of Frank Zappa, like a really influential musician. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Stay there.